As the years go on, we begin to get more and more indie horror games. Many incredibly scary, some not as much. However, frictional games are probably the main— Wait, what? Where are you go? What the fuck? Where is— yeah. In the early 2000s, Swedish dev Thomas Grip made a bunch of horror video game prototypes, a game engine with a name that sounds like it was written in Dragonish, and Penumbra Overture, which started out as a tech demo but then became a full game, and another one, and a third one, which we don't talk about. Despite the fact that they were pretty liked in the horror game community, Frictional were just doing bad. They were dying until they released a game from a funny clip I showed earlier. It's called AMNESIA The Dark Descent, I believe. Let me cut the bullshit exposition you don't care about and get down to brass tacks, because Amnesia is a horror game. In Alzheimer's The Sad Lowering, you are Daniel, and now you need to escape a spooky-ass castle. Yeah, we need to talk about the plot now. I'm sorry. Yeah, so unlike the other games I've talked about on here so far, Amnesia is much more plot-based. If you take away the story, you don't have much left over, other than the shit in your pants. 19th of August, 1839. According to Wikipedia, I don't actually know where it says that date in the game. You, the player, awaken in the dark and barren halls of Brennenburg Castle, a place which supposedly is in Poland, I believe? The game just calls it Prussia, because that's what that area of Europe was called at the time. Speculation-wise, it's probably Poland, we don't know.
Don't forget, some things mustn't be forgotten. The shadow hunting me. I must hurry. My name is Daniel. I live in London at Mayfair. What have I done? This is crazy. Don't forget. Don't forget. I must stop him. Focus. My name is... I am Daniel.
At this current moment, Daniel, his name is Daniel, by the way, he found a note. The only thing he can remember is that he is Daniel. He lives in Mayfair, a horrible, dismal place where all the Tories live, and that something is hunting him down. Supposedly. Shortly after regaining his consciousness, Daniel finds a note which tells him that he went out of his way to replace his own memory with nothingness, and he's being hunted by the Shadow, an unearthly presence, which, as you will see through the game, manifests itself in fleshy, acidic growths spreading throughout the castle. I would like to once again thank Wikipedia for that depiction. Genuinely, this thing is fucking weird. I had no idea how to put it into words. God, acidic. What a great word.
One last thing. A shadow is following you. It's a living nightmare, breaking down reality. I have tried everything, and there is no way to fight back. You need to escape it as long as you can.
Anyway, so, according to past Daniel, we need to go into the inner sanctum, find Alexander, the owner of Brennenburg, which literally just means flame castle in German, even though the game doesn't take place in Germany. Small aside, why is it called Brennenburg Castle? Berg means castle. That would be like calling your house Burning Castle. Where was I? Oh yeah, and then he needs to kill him. You're given no reason.
19th of August, 1839. I wish I could ask how much you remember. I don't know if there will be anything left after I consume this drink. Don't be afraid, Daniel. I can't tell you why, but know this. I choose to forget. Try to find comfort and strength in that fact. There is a purpose. You are my final effort to put things right. God willing, the name Alexander of Brandenburg still invokes bitter anger in you. If not, this will sound horrible. Go to the inner sanctum, find Alexander, and kill him.
According to Daniel, Alexander is a bad person. No, seriously, that's it. And your current Daniel clearly thinks to himself, what the fuck? Why aren't we just leaving? However, sadly, the game does not allow you to do that, for literally no reason. The closest reason you get to why exactly you can't just leave the castle is some doors have the shadow's flesh over it, but there are so many windows, and we see multiple times you can just smash a window and get out of the... It doesn't. I forgot the mildly bright rise has gameplay that exists as Servitor, purposefully making it counterintuitive and arguably frustrating. This is because Amnesia is a horror game. Okay, so it's a normal first-person horror game. If you played Resident Evil 7, imagine that, but without the guns and more awesome and cool. The main thing setting Amnesia apart are its lack of any combat tool, forcing the player to hide from the enemy, as well as its rather interesting sanity mechanic, where if the player stays in the dark too long, looks at the spooky guys too long, or doesn't progress through the game fast enough, you can just go fucking batshit, and see things which aren't there, hear things that aren't there, and have the screen distort, or terrifying cockroaches crawl across the screen. I can't explain why exactly, but something about the cockroaches really gets to me. The way that this effect is layered on top of everything else you see means that if you're playing the game at night, it just actually looks like there's cockroaches on your monitor. It's really weird and horrible. The game even has fake lies that it just tells the player. It gives incorrect tips during the tutorial to fuck over the player and make them think that the game has a bunch of mechanics that it just doesn't, in order to make you more stressed over things that literally do not exist. They couldn't code them. Which tutorial pop-ups are fake? I'm not telling you. Play the game, find out. Throughout the castle there are puzzles just waiting for you to stumble across them and take advantage of genuinely amazing physics sometimes. These can often be some of the best physics in any game I've played, rivaling Half-Life 2, with puzzles that actually require you to put some brain cells together and think, and sometimes it's just picking up thing and using thing in place. Or this one bit where I spent like 2 hours on my first playthrough wondering where the fuck I was supposed to go, not realizing you're supposed to pick up this chair and chuck it through a window to progress. This game is a masterpiece. The physics are nowhere near as integral as some of Valve's stuff, but it's also nowhere near as janky, probably due to the time in between the two, and incredibly fun to mess around with. Whenever you're not in danger, you can briefly pause your horror adventure and just have fun chucking boulders around. It's... honestly, Daniel, this motherfucker lifts. I have to wonder why exactly you can't fight back against these monsters when you clearly know how to pick up entire chairs with one hand and chuck it across a hallway. But buddy, what are you doing? Interestingly enough, there is actually a lore reason as to why you lose sanity in certain areas. Daniel has word I can't pronounce, the fear of the dark, which is why you lose sanity and look at cockroaches if you stay in the dark for too long. With that being said, as far as gameplay goes, that's about it. There's no combat, there's not really any of the platforming stuff that horror games seem to really like for some reason. It's mostly just walking from places, reading notes, and trust me, there's a lot of notes. And I got them for this video. And picking up tinder boxes, which have nothing to do with online dating. You use them to light things on fire. Except it's really useless. Literally 2 minutes into the game you find a lantern which can light almost anything up. Yes, your oil is limited, but you can find more than enough on a normal playthrough. If you progress fast enough and pick up all the oil you see, you shouldn't really have a problem. Unless you're my friend, who missed the lantern when he was playing, and got stuck in the game and complained about it being poorly designed, because he couldn't see anything. Like, it's not a hidden item, it's right there! I know you're watching, Sam, fuck you! Hey, late stage editing Ghosty here. I just thought I'd put like a minor warning here. This segment features some descriptions of torture and also some things happening to children that shouldn't. I am aware that might not be content you want to watch. Fair enough, I'll put a timestamp here. Anyway, back to the plot. As Daniel, make their way through the castle, you'll learn about its mysteries, its past, the fact that for some unexplained reason Alexander has been around for roughly 4 or 5 decades, which, that probably isn't important. Maybe he just eats his green beans. Mummy told me you grow much older when you do so. The origin of his situation is eventually, I say revealed, more so hinted towards, this orb. Throughout the game you'll find multiple orbs which, when touched, will do some weird shit, and Daniel recovered this one from the Tin Hinan tomb in Algeria, which apparently is actually a real thing. Like, you can go there.
That's when I saw a faint blue shimmer. My weakened body was heavy to carry, but I managed to push myself toward the enchanting light. It was waiting for me. Enclosed in dark nothingness, I felt myself drawn to the mystic light. I reached out, closing it in my hands. The faint glow escaped my fingers and began to spark brightly and spirit me away, unlocking alien memories of spiraling towers, endless deserts, and impossible geometry.
When Daniel touches this orb, it shatters, and that is what unleashes the shadow onto him. He ends up consulting many experts, basically just to say what's going on. However, literally every single one of them that he talks to will talk to them, he leaves, and then they get brutally dismembered and killed.
I try to sleep, but as I close my eyes, I see the men who fell victim in London. My fear and shame forces me to witness the same scenes over and over. They are dead because of me.
After this happens roughly 4 or 5 times, Daniel eventually decides that he should just go down the route of looking up old smelly men, such as Alexander, the guy we're supposedly supposed to kill. Alexander summons Daniel to Brennenburg, where he informs him all about the shadow, weirdly knowing a lot about it, despite the fact that as far as we're concerned, he's just a regular old guy. Almost as if he knows about it more than he's letting on. Shadow is essentially stalking Daniel. It kills everyone he comes into contact with, experts or otherwise, and it will not stop until it kills him as well. Alexander promises a mean of repelling the shadow by ritualistic means, essentially killing whoever they can get their hands on and covering the orb in a substance called vitae, which is a Latin word that means something I forgot. Give me a second, hold on. Vitae is a Latin word meaning or pertaining to life. I should have paid more attention in Latin class. So, how exactly do we get this Vitae substance? Well, by torturing people. Oh.
9th of August 1839. I can't stop sweating and shaking. The warding ritual was not something of a sane mind. I did not even realize the dungeon was still in use. Alexander had his servants bring one of the prisoners, a murderer, he told me. Alexander made all the arrangements, but he said I had to perform the ritual in order to have the right effect. The shadow could be led astray by the blood of another. Killing the man would provide us precious time. What else could I do? Alexander said it had to be done. Do anything! Whatever you want! Anything! Do anything! I'm innocent! Being around these degenerates makes me ill. None of them even tries to face their punishment with any kind of dignity. They taunt me with their lies of innocence and their cowardly pleas of mercy. What can make a man fall so far from the grace of a civilized existence?
Don't pay his lies any attention.
I'm not a bad man. It was an accident.
He set a man on fire.
It wasn't my fault. Why won't anyone listen?
That's horrible.
Of course. We are dealing with monsters here.
Oh. Yeah, so as it turns out, Daniel and Alexander would kidnap people and torture them in order to create this Vitae substance, as the only way you can harvest Vitae is from humans or animals experiencing extreme pain and agony.
Do it. Save yourself. He is a murderer, Daniel. He is evil. A cold-blooded killer. Hurry. Take the man, cut the lines, cut the flesh, watch the blood spill, let it come. Take the man, cut the lines, paint the man, cut the lines. Please, the man cries. Now you see. I did well. One life for another. You hear me, guardian of the orb? I did all this for you. Now, once more, withdraw your shadow from my domain.
We see this in the flashback where Alexander tries to get Vitae from a dog. How exactly he does this, we don't see because we hear it. However, you are able to see the aftermath, and it's not pretty. You see, Brennenburg isn't just a castle. As the baron of the town around him, Alexander, he had to do the duty of being a prison manager.
One of my responsibilities as a baron is that of a prison warden. This is where criminals are locked up.
Like a dungeon?
Very much so. Come, don't linger.
Yes, his lovely up-class mansion has 2 different prisons in it. In reality, Alexander's true purpose for this, that he isn't telling Daniel about, is so that he can use the orb to return to his original planet? Is it a planet or a different universe? I don't believe it's ever said, actually. However, you see, Alexander is from the Dark World, which isn't actually what it's called. However, as gamers, we didn't find out what that place was called until Amnesia Rebirth came out. It's unknown why exactly Alexander doesn't live there anymore. However, it's assumed that he was banished, as he very clearly wants to go back. It's often alluded to that Alexander had a lover on this other planet, hence why he wishes to return so badly. So, Alexander and Daniel gather Vitae from torturing prisoners, as you do, many of whom turned out to be innocent people that Alexander would kidnap, and tell Daniel that they were murderous criminals. Essentially, at the start of the game, Daniel is just a normal guy. However, by the end of it, he ends up having a body count of literally hundreds. This dude murders with no care, and eventually he becomes so deranged that they end up kidnapping actual honest-to-God children from the local farm.
Just outside Olstadt lies a small settlement where Zimmerman, a dairy farmer, lives with his wife and 3 children. Took the coach, went there. Our visit was unexpected, and Alexander was able to strike Zimmerman down without alerting the others. As he went to take care of the farmhands, I began to look for the children. We should have more than enough prisoners to finish the ritual now.
Please, let me go. I won't tell anyone, I swear. I just want to go home. No! Get away from me! Leave me alone! Why are you doing this? Get away from me!
August, 1839. I cannot believe what I have become. One of the girls escaped and I chased after her all the way upstairs. I hunted her down and... What is a life worth? How many lives can I take before I surrender my own? Sure, I would kill a murderer to save an innocent, but to kill an innocent to save myself? A cold-blooded murderer. 19th of August, 1839. It's not fair. I'm not to blame. I've been manipulated by that demon. He played my guilty conscience and duped me into facing the shadow alone. That vile, conspiring man. He expects me to meet my death as he steals power beyond imagination. Alexander, I will kill you for what you have done. If only the shadow had caught me in London or Algeria, I wouldn't have to suffer this humiliation. You made me a murderer. A monster.
To maximize the production of Vitae, the victims are forced to consume a potion that induces amnesia so that they can't grow accustomed to their torment. After all, if you become okay with the fact you're being horrifically tortured, you probably won't become as disturbed by future torture sessions, hence why the amnesia potion actually exists. And in case you're wondering, yes, this is the same amnesia potion that Daniel consumed at the start of the game, as after he became I hate the word woke, why did I fucking write that? He then realizes that maybe kidnapping and torturing people was a bad thing, actually. And to cope with the trauma, he takes the amnesia potion so he can forget it, albeit he does push the blame away from himself onto Alexander, which is fair, he was manipulated. And this is where Daniel wakes up at the start of the game. Everything I've explained so far lore-wise is only told to you through notes, and frankly is quite easy to miss. If you don't read the notes in the game, it really does take amnesia down a couple pegs. It ends up just being much more of a generic horror game instead of actually being the amazing story it is, purely because said amazing story is so easy to miss. So there is the backstory to the game. However, now you simply need to walk through the castle, and frankly I don't have a ton to say on each individual area. Some of them are interesting. The machine room is, I wouldn't really say it's creepy as much as it is interesting. However, as you near the Inner Sanctum, you end up encountering Agrippa. This... Where did his jaw go? I think it's safe to say that the most likely reason why this was actually done is because Frictional didn't have the budget to animate the dude talking. So obviously, you know, they could have covered his mouth somehow. Maybe he is very sick and has to wear a plague mask. Or we could just rip off his jaw. There is just one teeny tiny, you know, small part of the game I have not mentioned just yet. These guys? Yes, believe it or not, Amnesia is not simply a walking simulator, it is indeed a horror game, and because of that, throughout Bredenberg, you will encounter some of the most disgusting looking monsters in any horror game I've played. There are quite a few monsters you'll encounter throughout the game, however there are two main ones. However, one of the most famous parts of the entire game is the quote-unquote water monster, whose name is actually the K-Unk. Interestingly enough, K-Unk is an anagram for Kraken.
She could be hurt, or worse. There's no telling what horrors await down there.
I mentioned sound design earlier, and I guess this is a good bit to transition into the soundtrack. The soundtrack is genuinely brilliant. It purposefully serves the atmosphere and tells a lot of the horror through sound, rather than the graphics, considering the somewhat shoestring budget of the game. A lot of this music is scary. This is because Amnesia is a horror game that actually won several awards at indie game shows for its audio, and Frictional's YouTube shows how those sounds that you pissed yourself over are more often than not just normal everyday objects with the power of creative audio editing. The sound effects are crunchy and dark. It adds to the atmosphere and satisfaction of a lot of the physics puzzles. As for the soundtrack itself, it's one of my personal favourites of all time. Unsurprisingly, it's not something you'd listen to outside of the game, but it does fit the gameplay. Mikko Tamiya, the composer, is genuinely a beast of music. Much of Amnesia's OST, however, is much more subtle groans and machinery creaking, rather than actual music, compared to something like, say, Penumbra's soundtrack. I personally believe that the dude peaked with Soma, but that's a story for another day. A day that probably won't happen. Some of the sadder and more dramatic moments, specifically the endings, used a lot of piano. And speaking of the endings,
do you see, Daniel? A whole other world. Isn't it beautiful? I can finally Why are you smiling? Oh, for God's sake, Daniel, we both have one, don't we?
considering its smaller budget and strict developments, it is somewhat of a miracle that Amnesia is as long as it is, being about 4 to 6 hours for a first playthrough. However, it is still generally a short experience, and it makes sense to hope that considering how many questions the game brings up, you want an ending that will wrap everything up. No. There are 3 endings, arguably a 4th I'll get to later, but all of them are insanely vague, and whilst they do kind of get across what happens to Daniel, they explain basically nothing, and if anything, create more questions. First of all, the bad ending. You can just fucking die. Just die. Let Alexander escape after you risk your life again and again to find him. Why not? Or you can kill Alexander and then escape yourself, which is arguably the best ending. You know, it's clear cut, it's distinct. Alexander is dead. Daniel is alive, he escapes, he has repented, and for a guy with immense trauma, he seems happy enough. This ending does open a can of worms with the lore though, because, well, how did he leave? There are many parts of the game that show that it's impossible to backtrack, such as this elevator crashing or all of the doors that shatter behind you. It really doesn't make any sense how Daniel was able to leave the Inner Sanctum, but shut up. It should also be mentioned that the second game would imply that this is the canon ending, as Daniel is actually referred to a couple times in Amnesia Justine and later on Amnesia Machine for Pigs, even potentially being the uncle of Oswald, the main protagonist of that game. However, if you don't want to pick between whether you die or Alexander dies, why not both? Yes, technically there is a secret ending where both of you die, albeit it's a bit of a doozy. So, first of all, remember Agrippa, the jawless guy that makes you go on the wild goose chase to find all that stuff? Well, you can find even more stuff. 3 genuinely completely random ass objects just hidden in the arse cracks of the castle, and then when you take them you can form this potion. You can give it to Agrippa, cut off his head, and he's still alive somehow? You then bring his sentient living head to Alexander and use it to kill Alexander. How? I wish I was joking when I said that, but no, that's actually what the ending is. Afterwards, you wake up in a void, and it's very ambiguous. Supposedly, Agrippa and his master Weyer are here with you? So maybe you go to some kind of afterlife. Depending on your perspective and how optimistic you are, this can be seen as the best ending. I personally disagree. With that being said, considering the amount of work that it takes to get this ending, it would be cool if it was, but it probably isn't. Earlier on, when you get captured, however, you can technically get a secret 4th ending by just waiting and doing nothing. Kind of similar to the ending in Far Cry 4 now that I think about it. These endings are all technically valid, but as I said, the second one is probably the true one, Daniel escaping the castle and continuing his life. So, this does beg a couple questions. Specifically, what did I just play? Oh yeah, here we go baby, time for the lore explanations. Time for me to dump a bunch of stupid Amnesia wiki info I read. Okay, so I've explained the orbs and Vitae and all that stuff. Agrippa, he was the apprentice of Weyer, who was a real person. They betrayed Alex, he made connections to Daniel, you died, maybe... The truth is, while there is a lot of lore to the game, most of it isn't that important. One of the only explanations that I think might be useful, that I haven't already mentioned, is the fact that these monsters are actually just human beings. Yes, seriously, these are actually just normal people that Alexander trapped and, well...
Where did the Baron go?
Who cares? He left us enough wine to last us a lifetime! Or at least until tomorrow!
What's happening? Oh, it feels like my chest is going to burst.
My God! Wilhelm, do something!
Accept it. We're not getting out of here.
How can you say that? Alexander, you piece of shit! Let us out of here!
Now that I've explained most of the actual game, I think it's probably for the best that we talk about the influence that Amnesia had. To say that the horror genre affected the state of YouTube in the mid-2010s would be a massive understatement, to the point of saying that Cyberpunk doesn't run very well on a VIC-20. Multiple YouTubers nowadays are very much known for making videos of horror games, and arguably this is what led to the resurgence of horror in general. After all, the internet is obsessed with games like FNAF and or Slender beforehand, and Amnesia sort of led to Outlast, which sort of led to Resident Evil 7, which sort of led to the horror genre actually becoming good again within the AAA space. I could go on more. Amnesia's influence across the horror scene can just not be said enough. It may even be responsible for the continued population of this genre to where we are today, for better or very often for worse. So, that's Amnesia, the first of 5. After the Dark Descent, a lot more games were created. Specifically, there was a free DLC within the Dark Descent engine called Justine, which, well, I'd want to talk about it sometime, but it would kind of have to be its own video, since it's a pretty unique experience, albeit that video would probably be like 5 minutes, because the game isn't even an hour long. And to conclude this video, I grant Dark Descent the ghosty trademarked rating of 9 tinderboxes out of 10. Ending videos is something I'm really bad at. I mean, in the beautiful videos I made in the past, and then took down, normally I just put a random fart sound effect at the end, because, you know, breaks the tension. That kind of scares me. This is because Amnesia is a horror. Okay. I'm supposed to do a voiceover, aren't I? Well, to all 12 of you, thank you for watching this incoherent shit of a video. The Rayman video did comedically badly, so I might go on with some of the other ideas I have. I am still planning on doing a Rayman retrospective, sort of. I've got plans for a second one about the Rayman educational video games, and also I've finished the script about Rayman 2, so I'll get to that at some point. You know, look, I'm really bad at ending videos. Fuck, what do I say? Bye. This is definitely the longest thing I've made so far. The Audacity recording is like 40 minutes long, which I estimate would be like a 20-minute long video considering how it normally goes. Yeah, so kind of repeating myself at this point. Thanks for watching. Unsubscribe, and then subscribe to my OnlyFans.